planning session of the Transportation Commission is called to order. Shall we start with the roll call attendance?
Yes, Stossberg.
Here.
Rummy.
Here.
Sushbarushka.
Here.
Baldwin.
Here.
Binder.
Here.
Kopic.
Here.
And with that, I don't have the agenda in front of me.
Here, I can pull it. We have one more member joining virtually right now.
Next on the agenda is
Oh, remind us. Sorry.
Mhm.
yeah. All right. Approval of minutes. Any
No minutes.
no minutes to approve? All right. Next is the Rogers Madison Kinzer Pike Corridor Study. Who from the staff is here to present that?
That is Hank Duncan, Safe Streets Program Manager. I will throw it off to Drew Parker, the project manager from Fuel Design, in just a second. But to give you a broad view update on what we've been doing. So since we last met, we have been developing concepts based on your all's review, the public feedback that we got this past spring, and the data from the corridor analysis. We are now into the concept, development, and feedback phase of the study. So we have 9 different concepts to show you all and the public over the coming weeks. And we are looking for your all's feedback and review, any questions you have, so we can steer these concepts in the right direction. The concepts you're about to see are very much preliminary. They will change from now until the final corridor study. A couple of notes on upcoming engagement events. There will be a public workshop at Switchyard Park on Tuesday, September 1st from 5:30 to 7 p.m. That will be an open house workshop, so members of the public can come in and talk to staff, review the concepts, and give us their feedback. We will also host unscheduled pop-up events around the corridor to contact street users who normally don't or can't come to these formal public meetings. And we will also be hosting stakeholder-specific meetings with neighborhood associations, business owners, etc. throughout the next few weeks. So with that, I will throw it to Drew Parker.
Thanks, Hank. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. Hank, I think I need permission to share. Let me double check. See if this works. Oh, no. Okay, it came through. Sorry about that. Looked like at first I wasn't able to. Okay, can everybody see a screen with concept designs in the room?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for the introduction, Hank. So since we last met, we gave you kind of a summary of what we heard during workshop week and some preliminary concepts, and we have been working on revising those concepts, like Hank mentioned. By no means are these final concepts, but as part of this study, what we're trying to do is take the design objectives and the goal of the project, all the existing conditions that we collected, and address some of those known issues through these concepts. So we've picked 10 locations throughout the corridor to develop these concepts, so it doesn't cover the entirety of the corridor. But as a reminder, what we talked about at the last commission meeting, our overall concept, wherever possible, is to narrow the street cross-section in order to widen sidewalks, add larger buffer spaces where we can add more landscaping and separation, and where possible add shared use paths, especially north of the B-line crossing. So you'll see that kind of shown throughout some of these different concepts here, starting with the first one. So this concept shows Gorley Pike, and what we're showing here is a compact roundabout. And we think this is a really good place to have a compact roundabout because it slows people coming off the bypass and heading towards the bypass. We know that in this northern section, the speeds get a little bit higher. And so anything we can do to calm traffic as it comes on and off the bypass helps with increased yield and compliance at crosswalks, and just improve safety outcomes at intersections, because everybody has to travel through the intersection at slower speeds, 15 to 20 miles an hour instead of, today where they don't have to stop at all at this intersection, maybe more like 40 miles an hour or higher in some cases. So that's the concept that we're showing here for Gorley Pike. This is one of a couple of places where we think a roundabout can fit within right of way or with minimal easements for sidewalks at the corners. So yeah, I'll pause there. Can we take comments as we go, Hank?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to review all the concepts and then take comments?
I would rather go one by one if that's fine with the commission.
What do you mean one by one?
One concept by one concept.
Sure.
And then take questions now.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I've heard that in recent times, NDOT has been out to review the 17th and the bypass intersection and found it to be problematic.
Mm-hmm.
And they have also plans in the near future, next few years to do something with that bridge.
Yeah.
That's kind of very recent. Have those conversations been factored into what we might be doing here, because that's very close to the bypass?
Yes. So regarding the bridge, so we currently have the bridge called about a half mile west of here that connects Gorley Pike to the Arlington Heights Elementary School area. NDOT owns and maintains that bridge, and they are doing some maintenance, tearing it down and building up a new bridge near there. Originally, our hope as the city was to push it closer to Kinzer Pike to allow more direct travel for those along Kinzer who are going to either the high school or to Kroger in that strip mall area. NDOT pushed back on that, so the location of the bridge is shifting a handful of feet, but it's not going to be anything meaningful to really make a difference in this study. For that reason, this is a bit beyond the scope of this specific concept, but this past year in the spring, the city applied for the federal Safe Streets for All grant program, and some of the areas that we applied for are along this corridor. One of the items that we applied for, which we'll hear back about later this year, probably December, is an intersection redesign here at Kinzer and Gorley, and a shared use path to go east on Gorley down to Old 37, cut under the bypass, and come back up north of the bypass. So there is a grade separated crossing at the bypass. Again, that is very dependent on federal funding, but that is an idea that we've had because we know that NDOT is not budging on that bridge location very much. In terms of the larger scale concept of this Kinzer and bypass intersection that NDOT has been working on, so they are including that in a road safety audit. They've been working with city staff this summer to make observations, to do analyses about what can fit at the Kinzer and bypass, what can make safety improvements, while maintaining the existing throughput and capacity of that intersection. They don't have any set in stone plans right now. That will come later, but I believe we have been pushing for changes like building a roundabout at the Kinzer and bypass intersection, or narrowing the intersection in some ways. But I think what they're looking at more is changing signal timing or making smaller scale changes, because they're looking at a lot of different intersection projects like this. And so what we are requesting is simply beyond the scope of what they're able to do financially. But again, nothing is set in stone.
Thank you. Mr. Villa, would you like the gavel?
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, I passed the gavel to Mr. Villa. That didn't work.
I'll get it.
Thank you. So, the green spaces, do they literally mean grass, or do they mean some kind of special lane?
Green means grass. That can be a grass buffer
it
or
means landscaping, like undetermined at this point. It's just a concept. It's just holding space for some sort of landscaping.
So I see
We
in the
haven't-
southeast corner that there is effectively no sidewalk? Is that?
This is shown as a shared use path. Sorry, so this darker gray that almost looks like asphalt color. The idea is that this would be shared use path. So we've used a different color to symbolize when it's a wider shared use path. So the kind of more concrete color is sidewalk, and then this almost.
If you
darker
could
gray
use a
is
different
shared use
color
path.
for the darker gray in the future, I think it would be, because it looks like the shadow of the building to the east of it, and I didn't see it at all. So any other color might be a little bit better.
Sure.
Secondly, just to get back to Mr. Duncan, what you were saying about a path, that was a bike path or a car path under the bypass?
That is a shared use path. So for pedestrians, cyclists, those who walk and roll, similar to what we have on High Street or Winslow Road or a number of other locations in the city.
So this was something that would also take advantage of Old 37 going through Lower Cascades?
Correct. So this path would only go along Old 37 for about a tenth of a mile, maybe a quarter mile max. It is simply to get under the bypass and come back up on the other side.
But it attaches where on the other side?
So there would be a new path on the other side of the bypass where NDOT has property between the bypass and the IMI construction quarry.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions
I got a
on
question.
this point, Mr. Kopic?
Is this the end of the project right here? It doesn't, I mean, are we
This-
just showing the intersection, or is this the northern end of the
This is
project?
the northern boundary of the project.
So we don't go to the 45, 46, okay.
Any other questions,
Yeah.
Mr. Binder?
The island in the middle, I'm interpreting that as probably traversable, but a different paving material. Is that the idea here?
Drew?
These medians would be concrete. They could have plantings as long as those are in locations that don't obstruct sight lines. But yeah, the idea is that this is a pedestrian median refuge island on all four legs. So
sorry.
you'd only ever be crossing one leg of car traffic at a time.
Okay, I meant the island in the middle. Maybe there's a different technical
Oh,
term
sorry.
that eludes me here, but
Yeah,
the circle.
sorry. The roundabout circle, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, apologies. Yes, that is mountable, so it would probably be designed with like a 3-inch mountable curb for large vehicles to turn across it or traverse across it, but passenger vehicles, 99% of vehicles that are coming through there are not gonna need to traverse there. So yeah, it's a truck apron type material. And it's not a comfortable material for a passenger vehicle to drive over, so normal cars driving through there would circulate normally through the roundabout, but when there's a very large vehicle, a semi-truck, the idea is that they can traverse across that. Yeah, it's mountable. That's the distinguishing factor between a compact roundabout and a single lane roundabout, is that the circle is fully mountable.
Mr. Stassberg?
Is this compatible with the amount of traffic that's coming off of the bypass? So it doesn't back up?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Let's go on to the next design.
I have a question.
Mr. Drummy?
Wouldn't this would, and I'm not a concern necessarily, but this would block off the entrances to the gas station?
So preliminarily, what we're showing, right now they have 4 driveways into the gas station, and we know from a pedestrian safety perspective, ideally you would have less driveways to cross and make it a more comfortable walking experience. So right now we're showing closing 2 of those off, but that is something that would be figured out in the final design process and would need, discussions with the property owner.
Is
But it's kind of
that's my
ideal conditions.
No, and I understand why that would be ideal. Is that a voluntary thing, or can the city close access if they want? Is that a taking?
Ryan?
Generally, we do it voluntarily. 7 Line, we ended up not doing any takings, and that's a pretty good proxy for a project like this. It is something that's on the table, but it's unlikely that.
Could you summarize that for people, since you're not in front of the mic?
Oh,
Can
yeah.
you Restate that.
I can just
please?
get up to the.
Yeah.
You can sit in the mic.
Sit here.
It is possible to do a takings. It's unlikely that that's the option we'd pursue. Generally, we work with property owners and do it voluntarily. We offer improvements that they wouldn't otherwise get, and then they close an entrance or 2. And so you can see that on the 7 Line. We did that quite a bit.
What's an example of an offering you might make?
I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but generally landscape improvements, things like that, we can make a lot of times something that especially gas stations like to see is better entrances, meaning you could turn into them better, more smoothly. So things like that, we negotiate with the property owner and figure it out from there.
Very good, thank you. Further questions? Let's move on to the next
so the next concept location we looked at is 14th and 15th. And so you can see here, it's a 2-lane cross section. You have the shared use path on the east side, the sidewalk on the west side. And this location is a greenway. And so what we've designed here is a bikeway crossing and a pedestrian crossing at 15th. So those don't currently exist today. So the pedestrian crossing would be a raised crosswalk, and the bicycle crossing, they have a green cross bike, so they have green skip stripe markings, and then there would be curb cuts where they could then connect into this shared use path to then continue either on 14th or 15th, depending on which way they're going. So this is a common bicycle boulevard or neighborhood greenway crossing design that's used when you have an offset intersection like this. So we thought this was an interesting one to show as a template concept, because there's a few places where the intersections are offset and there's not an easy through connection. So this kind of shows how you could continue to make that connection for people walking and biking on this greenway in this, non-standard scenario.
All right, questions about 15th Street?
Is there any bike path on 15th, or they will be just going from the street and then they go into the shared path?
So 14th and 15th are low enough traffic that we're not proposing a separated bike facility, so this would be more of a shared street.
Other questions?
And
Sorry, go ahead.
there's other neighborhood greenways in the city, right?
Yeah.
Hank, that you could reference as examples potentially? Like Allen or I don't know if you have others off the top of your head, but.
Anybody else? I've got, I'm wondering about bicyclists heading westbound on 15th Street, but on the multi-use path. They are crossing, they're the only people, well, I'm having trouble imagining it. Like, first of all, if I'm biking on the east side of West 15th Street and I get to Madison Street, if I don't know the thing is there, I might try to turn onto Madison. I know it's there, so I turn onto the side path and I jog down. There's a raised crosswalk to my right, but how slow will traffic be slowed down so that I feel safe crossing?
So with this type of speed and volume, you would probably want rectangular rapid flashing beacons at a crossing like this, so that people can be made aware, and that you'd have advanced, yield lines.
Because,
and then, so it would be a push button activated.
Because
and
cars
then
driving
wait.
northbound are not going to be going as slowly as cars going southbound. And so the flashing lights are definitely going to be for the benefit of northbound drivers? Is that right?
Right, for both northbound and southbound, I think I understand what you're saying is that it's coming southbound. If they're coming across a raised crosswalk, there's also a physical barrier that's slowing them down, right? Because they have to drive over the crosswalk, the raised crosswalk, like a speed hump, but it's for both northbound and southbound.
Okay, but the bicyclist going westbound in the north lane onto Madison Street is sort of more at risk than other. I mean, like a bicyclist going eastbound is already in the street. I don't know. I don't know that I have a question here. I'm worried about
I
this.
think, yeah, I understand your observation that the raised crosswalk slows down traffic more for southbound traffic than northbound in advance of the crossing. Is that what you're saying? So
It wasn't, that's an interesting concern, I think, for an eastbound bicyclist who's closer to the cars coming north. For westbound, it was more like, never mind. I don't know, there's gonna be some kind of a signal?
Possibly. So what Drew was talking about is a rapid flashing beacon like we have at Walnut and Allen, or at Hillside and Weatherstone, where when there is crossing, or at 4th and Rogers currently, where when there is crossing traffic, whether it's a pedestrian or cyclist, you can push the button, lights flash rapidly, vehicles are much more likely to yield for that crossing traffic.
And then there's a diagonal sign to say that there's a raised crossing?
Yes.
On both sides? Okay.
Do we have a shared path beyond the screen area? So what's happening with the shared path, like,
Mm.
to the north and to the south?
Yeah, so the proposal is, so essentially, big picture, for most of this corridor, you have the B line about 2 blocks east of Rogers Street. Once you get to around 10th, where the B line crosses Rogers and goes westbound, that bike network disappears. You have some sections where you have striped bike lanes, but that's not our low stress network that we'd like to achieve. And so for folks who live up in Maple Heights or in the Kinzer Flats, that area, there is no low stress bike network to get them there. So essentially the priority for adding that separated path is going to be from where the B line crosses Rogers around 10th Street and up north up to Gorley Pike. So while we were just showing these specific intersection concepts, the linear parts of the corridor and these improvements will go beyond just this intersection.
Okay, clear.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions on this intersection?
You may have covered this, but what are the green pedestrian crosswalk looking things?
Those are the cycling crossings.
The cyclists aren't supposed to use the elevated crosswalk?
No, it makes it it makes it simpler, so they can simply go from the street to the path. They don't have to make that jog there, and then just marking it for them.
Why not make that entire intersection elevated? I mean, it seems like you got a lot of crossings in a small area. I don't know, maybe that's a good thing, I don't know.
Yeah, that's potentially one concept as well. It would be a little bit more complex and expensive to make the whole intersection raised, but it's certainly something we could explore.
I like that.
Can you give us a sense of how much more that is?
Not off the top of my head, but anytime you're dealing with a raised intersection, a raised crosswalk, it starts to impact drainage, and so you have to think about how you redesign drainage for the intersection, and it just is more complicated when you're doing an entire raised intersection versus a raised crosswalk.
It's really a question of, is there stormwater infrastructure currently there? If there is, then it is still more expensive, but it becomes much more feasible. If there isn't, then we're talking about magnitudes more expense that we could be spending at other locations along the corridor.
Thank you.
Further questions on 15th Street? Can we go on to the next? Is there something on 14th Street that we're gonna look at?
It's just the same cross section with the shared use path. So really most of the concept here is showing how bicyclists and pedestrians are to cross the street here. So yeah, it's showing both intersections in the concept, but there's not anything different to see on
Okay.
14th.
Let's continue.
So the next intersection that we have a concept for is at 6th Street, and so this is to show how we could narrow the intersection footprint at a minor street intersection and potentially add a raised crosswalk. So currently there's already this splitter island here. What we're showing is just adding curb extensions on the east side of the intersection at 6th Street and then adding in a raised crosswalk. So the idea is that you're making the intersection more compact. We're also shortening all the crossings because right now this is a 2-lane cross section with on-street parking. So by eliminating that on-street parking that has low to no utilization in our study is what we found, we're shortening that crossing, and a number of people at the public workshops told us that this crosswalk just doesn't feel comfortable as it stands today, and so the goal is to make the intersection more compact, shorten those crossings, and then we're showing prioritizing one raised crossing on the north side. I think per discussion at the last location, you could add it also on the south side. It's just, for right now we're kind of showing one because that slows people down at that crosswalk as they come into the intersection.
All right, questions about 6th Street?
Just a couple of comments, questions. One is the intention here for 6th Street traffic to be right turn only onto Rogers? No straight through traffic, is that the idea? I'm just seeing the right arrow on the ground.
Yeah. I think in a previous concept we had thought about that. It's not necessarily in this concept, we're not restricting traffic. At one point we also had looked at the potential to put a median here, but that didn't make a whole lot of sense for a couple of different reasons. And so I think that's just a leftover from that concept. So I think as it's designed right now, we could make it allow all turns to this intersection.
Okay.
As it stands today, yeah.
Just to clarify, are you saying you will return it to straight or right turn?
Yeah, any movement. As it stands today, you can make
Okay.
any turn from these approaches.
And then I guess my only other comment would be that I think between this intersection and the one we just discussed at 15th Street, if we were to spend the money on a fully raised intersection, I think this one would probably be a little more justifiable, just because of the configuration of the traffic and the intersections and probably the volume of pedestrian traffic and bike traffic here. I'm not saying that based on any numbers, but just my own experience.
Mr. George, go.
Yeah, my comment was, or maybe just to double check, I think on the 6th to the west, the island is a bit longer now because based on what I saw recently, when you're like leaving the gas station, I don't think you can, I think the visuals on the left, the island is longer, no? The way they're constructing it right now.
Sure. So that is on Kirkwood. That's just one block south.
Yes, right, sorry.
You're good.
But it's longer there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other questions about 6th Street from commissioners? Let's go on to the next intersection.
So the next intersection that we're showing is at 4th Street. This is shown as a raised intersection at 4th and a curbless street north of here. So when we had the workshop week and our design charrette, we had thought that this was a great location to have a fully flush street because it kind of matches, it's parallel to downtown. It seemed to be the most urban, have the most intensity of businesses and an urban feel of all the portions of the corridor. So right now what we're proposing is having this be a curbless street and feel, have like the most Main Street feel, I think, of any portion of the corridor. So with that in mind, that's why we're proposing starting the raised intersection at 4th Street, and this could potentially go up to Kirkwood. It could also go further up to 6th Street, but we were just showing this section as a representative intersection. So the street could potentially be done in pavers or bricks to really create a traffic calming feel and create a sense of place, but it could also be done in colored concrete or other materials. But the idea is that it feels like a more special place than some other portions of the corridor with a higher design treatment. That's the concept here. So yeah, kind of that brick red color, that's the roadway. These lighter pink outside sections, these would be on-street parking lanes. And then you have just very wide sidewalks in this stretch to support that kind of more downtown feel.
Questions on 4th Street? Commissioners?
Maybe just a clarification. So I know that we discussed it in the past, the different treatment, the brick or any other material, but is it just the aesthetics or like there's any function towards that as well, this change?
Brick and pavers also have a traffic calming effect for people driving. There's both the visual and auditory change as compared to asphalt or concrete. So, you'll see that in a lot of communities on downtown streets, maybe just on the public square or a few blocks around the most downtown area. They'll do it in brick or pavers because it really slows down traffic, especially when you have a lot of activity in that space. But it does also, not just visual, it also has a little bit of a traffic calming effect.
Got a question.
Mr. Cobb?
So instead of brick pavers, does stamped concrete give you the same perspective? I mean, brick's pretty expensive.
Potentially. I'm not the right person to ask about that. I'm not an engineer, but I would speculate that stamped concrete maybe doesn't have the same strength for driving on as pavers and brick. But I would need to ask one of our engineers about that in more detail.
I'm gonna ask a question here of staff, I guess. Is cost one of our concerns? Do we not have an interest as a commission in spreading out improvements across the city? And if cost is a concern and there's no engineer here to answer our questions, are we supposed to make a final weigh-in tonight?
No.
Okay. Maybe if you can clarify what the next step is in the process for this body.
For this body with the study as a whole?
Sure.
Sure. So over the next, excuse me, over the next few weeks to month or so, staff will be doing community outreach and review and essentially revising these concepts based on a lot of that review. From there, we will also be completing the final study document. And right now, your all's next meeting will be reviewing the final study and the revised concepts, whether that's to vote on it as a comprehensive document, or if you would like to have a separate planning session, I think that's something we can discuss. But as of now, that next meeting would be you all reviewing revised concepts and a final study.
Can I ask, because in the packet for the last meeting, it showed meeting number 4 in July. I thought this is our meeting number 4, and there was no further meeting, and so I didn't know I mean, it just said final quarter study here.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically saying there's another meeting planned that you intend to have with us?
Sorry, the next meeting that I was talking about would be that final Transportation Commission review meeting to review the study as a whole.
Okay.
But if you all would like to schedule a separate planning session to talk in more detail about these concepts of the study before the entire body hears it and votes on it, we can absolutely do that.
Okay, I just wanted to know what our options were. Any further questions on the 4th Street intersection, Mr. Binder?
Is the intention here, because I'm seeing stop lines on Rogers, is the intention here to turn 4th and Rogers into a 4-way stop?
No.
Okay.
Question?
Yeah, back to surfacing. Any alternatives, first of all? And then second question is where it ends. So is it Kirkwood? Is it 6th Street? Like, will it be like just a chunk of brick and then the rest will be asphalt?
Sure. This is simply one option of what we could do. And again, we are not showing the entire corridor linearly. And so if we all like, this could expand as far up as the Trades District. Because you have the brick streets up there that could combine very cohesively up there. But again, you're talking about a large street reconstruction project, so cost is definitely a factor.
Okay. Can we discuss in the future in some way alternatives to it, which can help, not asphalt, but not brick too, but I think the cost as well is a big concern here.
Yes.
Further questions on 4th Street and North? If not, let's go on to the next.
Sorry, just one quick comment about this cross-section. I think I would be supportive of this type of street treatment, but primarily if it were maybe combined with a kind of long-term vision for changes in the immediate surrounding land use. I see surface parking, a drive-through bank, a gas station, on this block, multiple drive cuts, none of which are really things that pair well with this kind of investment in the street treatment, I think. So I would love to see this, and I would love to see it all over the city, but I think it would make the most sense to include that as part of a sort of vision for the surrounding land use as well as the street cross-section.
Can a commissioner propose changes to zoning that are in conjunction with a redesign of the street. That might be a question for planning. Ryan Roebling, you should probably just sit at the table with us. I don't know why you don't. Let him use this microphone. You can be Leslie Davis.
Okay, that took long enough that I forgot your question. Can you repeat your question?
So, Mr. Binder just suggested that there's a lot of gaping holes where buildings used to be. If a commissioner wanted to recommend changes to zoning that go with the change of the street use or the street design, would that be appropriate?
The direct answer to your question is no. This commission can make a recommendation on
Sure.
whichever. It's not really in their purview. Plan Commission is specifically tasked by the state to do that. However, this document is unique. Hank can correct me if I'm wrong, but future land use planning is a portion of this. So a recommendation in that document would be appropriate and is expected to already be part of it.
In this report or in which document?
In this final report, in the final report for the Rogers-Madison-Kinzer corridor study.
And this will have an impact on the plan commission. They will look at it.
It'll be a document that we reference moving forward to the plan commission, yes.
Mr. Binder?
So I was just gonna clarify then that the final version of this report is intended for our commission, but also for plan commission and other commissions and staff and so forth.
Yeah, ultimately, this commission is the final body for this specific report. It will lead to other decisions by other bodies. So we'll turn to the transportation plan and comprehensive plan and bring those forward to the plan commission. So yes.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Further questions?
Last question maybe, just in the city, where else do we have any similar treatment or treatment you're referring to when you said like long term we can connect to other streets or places so it will be more coherent?
So you have further south of here the Hopewell Commons area that was just built. That's your curbless brick street, just west of the Kroger area and east of Rogers. And then further north you have the Trades District area, which is also flush, brick, and curbless.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Stasberg?
Yeah, Eilon was mentioning relative traffic. I pulled up the Strava heat map, which has bike traffic through the area. In all four of these intersections, 4th, Kirkwood, 6th, and 7th are all high traffic crossings. So in terms of something like this, which will slow down traffic for this in that relative corridor, I think it makes sense to invest more for safety, particularly in that area, because there's a lot of bicycle traffic crossing Rogers throughout 4 adjacent streets.
Further questions or observations at this point from commissioners? If not, let's go on to the next intersection.
Okay, so the next intersection we looked at is kind of a bigger section, but we've looked at 3rd Street, and then we took a look down 3rd Street as part of the scope of the studies that we also looked at 3rd Street down to Walnut. And so I'll start at Rogers and move my way.
Wait, orient us first.
Yeah, this is the 3rd and Rogers intersection.
Okay, we're still,
Here on the
north
left
is
side
still
of the
up,
street.
right? Yeah, okay.
North is still up, yeah, sorry. I know we've put north to the right on some of these previously. Yep, north is still up. This is the 3rd Rogers intersection. This is 3rd Madison over here, and then I can scroll over. This is a big roll plot poster of the design. So right now, 3rd has 4 motor vehicle lanes and has a left turn lane at the intersection. But the traffic volumes are about 6,000 vehicles per day, which is a very, very small amount of traffic for that much roadway space. So it's very overbuilt for that much traffic. Even a 2 or 3 lane cross section can carry 20 to 25,000 motor vehicles per day, and that 4 or 5 lane cross section could carry potentially 40,000 vehicles per day. So with 6,000, it's very overbuilt, and so there's excess capacity and space that we can repurpose. So the concept here shows these kind of dark gray or almost black. These are sidewalk level separated bike lanes, and then you have the sidewalk here, and then you would have a landscape buffer. So we're changing the cross section to a 2 or 3 lane cross section at the intersection where you need this left turn lane onto Rogers. But all that additional extra space, that was two outside motor vehicle travel lanes, can be used to put in sidewalk level separated bike lanes and a better buffer from the sidewalk as well. So that's the concept there. And then as you move east at Madison, we would transition those sidewalk level separated bike lanes to in-street separated bike lanes to go under the B line over here. And then as you get to College, we would continue those separated bike lanes. And then at Walnut, you would go back to the existing 4 or 5 lane cross section, depending where you look, of 3rd Street. So in this concept, the westbound approach for 3rd Street, as you come to Walnut, that outside lane would now be a dedicated right turn lane, because you'd only have one through lane continuing through this section of 3rd between College and Walnut. And those outside lanes would be repurposed for separated bike lanes. So the overall concept is to repurpose that excess space for separated bike lanes if we just use slightly different types of separated bike lanes, either in-street or sidewalk level, depending on the condition. So that's the overall concept for 3rd Street.
Wow. Comments or questions, Mr. Binder?
One, I guess, concern or perhaps objection I have to this, which overall looks great, by the way, but one thing that maybe bothers me a little bit here is that the separated bike lanes on the section of 3rd Street between Madison and College, they go, if I understand this correctly, under the B line, where the roadway is currently. They don't connect with the B line. Is that right?
So we have, what we've shown right here in this southeast corner of the Madison Street intersection is extending this shared use path that does connect up to the B line. So that would be one place where there is a connection to connect up there. But you're right, because this is a underpass and it's going down under the B line. We're really just repurposing the motor vehicle travel lane, and so the connection would be at this sidewalk level here, where part of it exists, but it doesn't go all the way to Madison. So this would propose, extending that all the way to Madison.
Thank you. I think I would just maybe encourage the team to consider ways to make the connectivity between east-west bike lanes on 3rd Street and the B line to be a little more straightforward, a little less awkward, especially for, say, if you're coming south on the B line, you want to turn west, turn right onto 3rd Street. It's just a little awkward to do that, and there's not really any inherent value in having these cycle lanes go under the B line when, I understand for cost reasons, and like if you're reducing the motor vehicle traffic lanes to one in each direction, then you have the roadway space to do that, but it doesn't exactly improve connectivity to the B line itself. And I understand this whole explanation about the side path on the south side of 3rd, but I would just hope there would be maybe some thought given to better ways to connect to the B line here, because I think that's a real opportunity.
Further questions or comments from commissioners on 3rd Street? I was going to say, this is a Rogers-Madison-Kinzer study, but this is going 4 blocks east, and I think this is perhaps the biggest news of the entire corridor study. Are you guys allowed to go this far east? Like what gives?
Is that a rhetorical question?
Sure. But it's in our scope of work to look at this section of 3rd as well.
It was in the scope, too?
Yes.
Oh, good.
So the impetus for this is that engineering is going to work on 3rd and Madison and 3rd and Rogers intersections this coming year to do some signal replacements. And while we look at those intersections, we're changing curb line, we're changing the geometry. And so if we're changing these 2 intersections already, we should also look at the bigger picture of this area and work with it comprehensively with these other projects that are going on.
Can you scroll over to the block between College and Walnut? So now, news came today that this block is closing for construction of the convention center. Are we taking advantage of, we're not going to be able to take advantage of that to redo the block?
No. Again, this is very much in the conceptual design phase. The public has just had the first opportunity to see this. The end product of the study is not going to be that all of these concepts are ready for construction. It is an opportunity for when there is funding available to begin an engineering design contract to then construct it. But for this specific concept, especially the areas closer to Rogers and Madison, there are funds for construction along with the signal replacements. How far east will that stretch is a question of what bids we get with this project.
Last question I have is, you said that traffic counts on the block west of Rogers was only 6,000 cars a day. What are the counts like down here?
So essentially west of College is where the traffic counts drop off a good amount. That's what Drew was talking about, where the counts around 6,000. Drew, do you have counts available for east of College? I can give estimates, but I didn't know if you had numbers.
I don't think we had any specifically collected, so if you have some,
Do we have
I'd be
anything rough?
curious.
I don't have anything offhand. East of Walnut is where they jump up quite a bit because right now you have a lot of traffic on 3rd, then traveling north-south on College and Walnut, and so west of College is where the traffic numbers drop off. East of Walnut, this is a very, very rough estimate. I would guess about 15 to 17,000 cars a day.
Yeah. Okay. Question, Mr. Stossberg?
Just a counterpoint to Mr. Binder's comment about the Beeline Trail. I find this level of connectivity sufficient. To me, this is a world I want to live in where you have bike lanes traveling under bike lanes. We certainly have roads for cars with bridges that travel under each other, and we're not always trying to connect them at that point. I think if you're on a longer journey, you can find a way to navigate that doesn't involve being on the bridge and looking down and wondering how you're going to get there. It's okay with me.
But to be clear, this design does include at least one way to get off the Beeline Bridge and onto east or westbound road.
Right.
Right,
It doesn't
this-
try to make a clover leaf or something where you can get accomplished every different direction. But yeah.
I should note, at this corner of College as well, we've shown widening the sidewalk to be a multi-use path to make a better connection there as well. But, you know, all these things are kind of contingent on discussions with the property owners, but there's, in the current state, there's nothing impeding it. There's no building in the way. But in this case, you know, there's I think a wall here, a retaining wall, and over here there's maybe some utilities in the way, but there's not an actual building fronting right there. So it's, like Hank said, it's a concept, it's an idea, it's sort of, this would be ideal, but
Okay.
some of these improvements are outside of the right of way that we're showing.
Further questions? Mr. Drew?
My question will be what will end up in the final report? Like the whole thing, and will we be voting for the whole thing, or like for just the part which is closer to the corridor?
Mm-hmm. Drew?
What part will end up in the final report?
Yeah, like in the final proposal. Like will it be like this whole part of 3rd Street, or like it will be just the part which is closer to the corridor, just because this whole project is around about corridor? And will we vote for the whole thing, so for everything you proposed just now, or like proposing?
As it stands right now, we were planning on including all this. I think that's maybe a question for Hank. It was included in the scope of work that we would also look at this section
Great to do
of 3rd Street.
research and planning,
So,
of course, if you have resources.
Is it correct to say that the stuff east of Madison is light green to show that it's potential future, whereas the dark green was intended to be built?
Sorry, by
Not
east of
as-
Madison, do you mean the highlights around the protected bike lane and some of the walls?
I don't know, that's what that's what we're trying to figure out.
It's just a different symbology. So this is just showing that these would be concrete median islands separating the bike
Okay.
lane. So it doesn't indicate that one is short-term or one is long-term. It's just a different way to symbolize, this dark green is landscaping space, and this lighter green is the curb line or edge of pavement, and these, light gray is a concrete median island. So we haven't discussed, what's short-term, what's long-term. It's more just to start getting the concept on paper.
I think this answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
So, I got a question.
Mr. Kopic?
So we have traffic counts where from Madison to Rogers on Third Street?
I would need to look up the exact block where we got traffic counts, whether it's from College to Madison or Madison to Rogers, but it's at least one of those two blocks we have traffic counts
I
for.
mean, it would be good to know all those from College to Rogers.
Agreed.
So we can have those provided to us in time for the final
Yeah.
report? Okay. Further questions before we move on? Let's keep going south.
All right, so moving further south, we have shown the Dodd Street intersection as another concept. And at this location, we've now moved the shared use path to the west side because it matches the shared use path that starts at Patterson, headed south, all the way to city limits. And so, that transition, we haven't decided exactly where that transition would be because we haven't designed everything, but potentially in somewhere, around 2nd Street, I would imagine it could be a good location for that. So this concept shows where we have kind of a more compact intersection, a more narrow right-of-way, a very constrained right-of-way really, how we can still fit in 2 lanes, a slightly wider sidewalk, and a multi-use path. So there's a few blocks in the section around Dodd Street where we have the narrowest right-of-way of anywhere on the corridor, and we still want to achieve the project goals. And so this concept shows how we can potentially do that at the Dodd Street intersection and intersections that are similar to this in the area. So currently it's an all-way stop, so we're not changing that. We're just showing widening the sidewalk on the west side into a shared use path.
Questions on Dodd Street?
Okay.
Mr. Kopic?
So the shared youth path is on the west side of Rogers in this area?
So there is a shared use path from Country Club to Patterson on the west side of Rogers, and this would essentially extend that path further north.
And are you going to, how are you going to do that? I mean, you're going to move the sidewalk, or the path out into the roadway? I mean, all that sidewalk
Yes.
there has retaining walls on there. I mean.
Yeah, so this holds the back of sidewalk on both sides of the cross section, and it would widen the sidewalk into the street. Because in some places currently there is an on-street parking lane here, so the pavement is a little bit wider than this currently. As we saw in our parking utilization counts, the amount of people parking that space is very little or 0 on most blocks in all the periods that we checked. So repurposing that space to widen the sidewalk. So this doesn't change the back of sidewalk in this section.
And that goes all the way to 3rd Street on that side?
For this section, no. Our proposal was to extend it up to, I believe, 1st Street is where the existing bike lanes start in the Hopewell area.
Oh, and then it's going to cross the street and go through Hopewell?
So between 1st and 2nd, you have the new existing protected bike lanes, and then north of 2nd, we were not proposing any shared use path or any additional bicycle infrastructure.
North of 2nd Street, there's no infrastructure, bike lanes north of there?
Correct.
But it is extending bike lanes from the south.
Correct.
So what happens when you get to 2nd Street? You go down to the B line and then?
So our proposal was with the incoming 2nd Street protected bike lanes that are being built right now, folks could go from Rogers from 2nd to the B line, or continue to use the street if they want to.
So it kind of makes that connection at the B line at 3rd Street a little bit more important then.
Correct.
Further questions on Dot Street? Okay, let's move on.
So the next concept that we have is at Patterson Street, and this is a place where we have a little bit more right of way. And so we're showing a single lane roundabout in this section as a potential concept. This does potentially require, similar to Gourley Pike, a little bit of easements for shared use paths and sidewalks on the edge of the roadway. But there's a little bit more right of way, and there's a little bit more traffic volume, side street traffic volume with Patterson. And so the nice thing about a single lane roundabout here is that it calms traffic on both east-west for Patterson as well as Rogers, and keeps those speeds lower to keep everybody safer at the intersection. So we also have, coming from the east, there is a shared use path along Patterson, so that connects into here as well. And that's also why we have the extension of the shared use path on the west side in this section. So we're making that connection east-west to Patterson, but also to the south on Patterson where it continues. So single lane roundabout, you can see here the larger circle that's showing kind of the red brick crosshatch, that would be mountable for large trucks, but the green center circle could have landscaping in it or a gateway treatment, public art, that kind of thing, because it doesn't need to be traversable or mountable by large vehicles. So this is both a safety and traffic operations improvement potentially over the existing signalized intersection.
Questions on Patterson? Mr. Binder.
I'm curious what your methodology was in determining the size of this roundabout, the diameter of it.
So this uses a standard inscribed circle diameter for a single lane roundabout using design best practices. So there's some flexibility, and I think we went as small as you possibly can. Whereas at Gourley Pike, that's a compact roundabout, and the reason for that is because there's not as much space, so you need to use a compact roundabout, make the circle smaller, but then the full circle needs to be mountable. So this is essentially as small as you can get with a single lane roundabout. And some of the benefits of having a single lane roundabout is that you get a little bit more deflection and slowing of vehicles as they approach the roundabout. You can have larger median refuge islands, and they have a little bit more capacity than a compact roundabout. And then also the accommodating truck turns without them having to traverse and drive over the center island.
Okay,
So
thanks.
otherwise they operate similarly.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess I don't totally understand why there's kind of this hard delineation between what is considered a mini roundabout versus a single lane roundabout. To me, in my head, again, not an engineer, but in my mind, there's just a sort of continuum of there's compact roundabouts that are on the larger side, there's single lane roundabouts that are on the smaller side. But you're sort of suggesting that actually there's kind of a distinct set of categories for sizes of roundabouts, or at least in engineering best practices. Is that right?
Generally speaking, and the biggest difference is whether or not you have a center median island that has, vertical curb and something in it that can't be driven over. So that's really the distinction between what's a compact roundabout and what's a single lane roundabout.
Okay. I just bring this topic up because the city's constructed several roundabouts in the past with, fairly high capacities in mind, and I think in retrospect, some of those were probably built to be too large, and so I'm just wondering if this is kind of, if the size of this was informed by, some of the previous roundabouts that have been built in the city. I mean, I'm not going to get into citing examples, but
I'd like to hear the answer to that question.
Yeah, and we haven't looked at other comparisons of roundabouts around the city, but this is the best practice to use a single lane roundabout versus a dual lane roundabout. I mean, a dual lane roundabout would be excessive, and dual lane roundabouts have their own safety issues in some cases, depending on how they're designed. They can potentially degrade pedestrian crossings because now you have a multiple threat condition where there's two vehicles yielding to crossing pedestrians or bicyclists. So we prefer only ever going as big as a single lane roundabout because that means that as a pedestrian or bicyclist, you're only ever crossing one lane of one direction of traffic. So that's sort of our controlling standard. And then as far as how it's designed, that is using best practices in roundabout design. The engineers of my firm put that together using industry standards. I think the decision as to when you use a compact versus a single lane really has to do with how much intersecting traffic there is, as well as how much space there is. So they operate similarly, but a compact roundabout can't handle quite as much traffic volume, and is more of a kind of collector street or minor arterial type of treatment, whereas if you have the intersection of two arterials, then a single lane roundabout is a little more appropriate for that context.
Thanks, and just to be clear, I was not by any means arguing for a multi-lane roundabout here. I don't think that would be appropriate. Although I would be curious to know if any of these streets are actually categorized as arterials, because I would think they would be categorized as collector streets.
I would need to look that up real fast. But in terms of truck routes, that's what we have been looking at in terms of turning movements and what we could put a single lane roundabout on, a compact roundabout, or if we're just doing a signal geometric change, which you'll see later. And Grimes-Patterson is a truck route. Rogers is not defined as a truck route, but we know that a lot of big trucks use this route, and so we need to have the ability for those larger trucks to make these turning movements, whereas, say, at Gorley, that is obviously not a truck route. That is a much smaller street with lower volumes, and so that is another big reason why we can put a compact roundabout up there, but not over here.
Okay, thanks. That clears it up for me. I think the takeaway for me is that Patterson is a more major crossing street than Gurley Pike.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And just a
Mr.
small
George, go.
clarification for Garley, we have a bus route, or it just goes a bit lower than that roundabout? I think there's a bus somewhere nearby, right?
I would need to check. I don't. Oh, I think
There was a bus station or something
I think
like that.
Shelley has a comment here.
Yeah. Just about that. So Gorley Pike, we have an east-west route that goes through that intersection. So that compact roundabout, would the bus need to go over the median treatment every time?
I would have to check with our engineers.
Around, yeah.
I think there's enough room for fire trucks and buses to go around, but it's for like a large semi truck that they have to mount it, but I'd have to double check and get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll need to know that. Further questions or comments from commissioners on Patterson? I wanted to, when they built Sarah and Rogers, it was the Champs-Élysées in comparison to this. It was built to be a two-lane roundabout. And I take it we've since corrected that, but it's still the dimensions of a two-lane roundabout, even though it's been reduced to one lane, it's just a much larger circle, right? Am I correct I'm looking at the satellite image of this intersection, and am I correct in assuming that there's some land that would have to be acquired to the northeast of this intersection?
Yes.
It seems like a vacant lot, but are you concerned about being able to get it, or is that why you designed it this way?
There is always concern about land acquisition in any project. If whether it's here or in other areas of this project, if that becomes a barrier, then we can redesign as needed. But right now, because we're still in the conceptual design, we would like to design what is physically feasible, and this is feasible.
Okay. I just want to say this has got to be my favorite thing of the whole project, and I just liked 3rd Street, but this intersection has been crying out for a roundabout for years. It's just so big. And now I have a sense of, I've always wondered how much land it took to build a roundabout, and now I know that there's a term called compact roundabout. It's like That may be my next new favorite thing, but for now, I'm excited about this. Is there more? Should we go, for, Mrs. Churchko?
On the left, what's happening with this shared use bus? Like, it's just
In which
ending?
part? Sorry.
Will it just end there on the left, and then from the north to the west? Yeah, this part. What's happening with the ending of it? Will it be just ending there, or?
There is an existing shared use path to the west on Patterson, so I'm not sure how far that goes. Maybe it just goes a few more blocks, but it connects at least to the B line to the east, and then it goes maybe a few more blocks to the west. So we're just kind of showing tying into it. So we
It
haven't
goes- it goes
designed
to
it all the way
Fairview.
there, but
Okay.
okay. So it goes to Fairview.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
So yeah, it would continue as it was or tie into it at some point over here.
Mr. Hoppick?
So, the compact roundabout, just for everybody's knowledge or information, whatever, is that similar to the one that's on Morris Pike there? Was that Renwick or whatever it's called?
Yeah,
Is that a compact roundabout?
good question.
Those would be single lane roundabouts because there is an island in the middle. You cannot fully mount those roundabouts. Compact roundabout, there is no island in the middle, so fire trucks, buses, semis could go over them if need be.
So to follow up on this question, is the Morris Pike roundabout the same diameter?
I don't know, I would have to check.
Yeah, if we could, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, if it's the same as the compact, 'cause it's pretty tight.
We'd like to know that for the last meeting, yeah. Is it pretty tight because you drive too fast, Mr. Coppick?
Not in my opinion.
Further questions on Patterson, Mr. Duncan?
If you give me 15 seconds, I can find out the diameter.
That'd be great.
Yep.
I guess we could use Google Map measure distance to do that, couldn't we? Mr. Strasburg?
That's what he's doing.
Oh, okay.
It
Any
looks
other-
like it's about 130 feet, 125 to 130 feet.
Compared
Pavement?
to,
From outside curb to outside curb.
and then this one is?
Drew?
From outside curve, I think the ICD inscribed circle diameter, which is the outer ring
Yes.
of the roundabout, I think is 100 feet on this one. I'd have to check with Waleed.
So this would be about 30 feet smaller in diameter.
Than the Morris Pike roundabout?
Correct.
Mm.
Further questions? Let's move on south.
So the next intersection that we designed is Rockport Drive, and this one is a little sticky. It's this one again has narrow right of way. The right of way just gets narrower on this southern end, depending where you are. Sometimes it opens up at intersections. At this intersection, it's pretty tight. And so what we're showing here is some minor changes to try to make the intersection more compact, organize the traffic a little bit better, and slow traffic as it goes through the intersection. So initially we had looked at testing even a compact roundabout. There's just not enough space given the available right of way. And so what we're showing here is adding a northbound dedicated left turn lane. Today there is a northbound through lane and actually a dedicated right turn lane into the street to the east, which is really not needed. The traffic volume is very low for that dedicated right turn lane. So we're adding this dedicated left turn lane, converting that outside lane to a through right turn lane, and then that allows us to have a striped median on the north side here and just better organize the intersection and get left turning vehicles out of through traffic so that they don't back up the through traffic and create a safety issue. What we're also showing here is adding another crosswalk on the north leg of the intersection. There's no crosswalk on this north leg today, so this would add in a new crosswalk there. Other than that, it is very similar to the existing cross-section, but make a couple of minor tweaks to make things more compact and better organize traffic through the intersection.
Questions about Rockport Road?
I don't love the right turn angle from Rogers to Rockport. I feel like if we're trying to be safety minded here, we should be trying to aim for closer to a kind of 90-degree approach. And I think there's definitely some potential here for, at such a shallow angle, you know, a conflict between right turning traffic from Rogers and the multi-use path. And then the other thing I would say is, it doesn't seem like there's any reason to not have a poured concrete island on Rogers for the crosswalk on the north side of the intersection here versus just a painted one. But yeah, I don't know. This intersection's been a problem for a long time, and I don't live in this area, but I have plenty of friends who do, and I don't think anybody really likes this intersection. So I hope that if we are gonna try to improve it, we can do as much as possible.
Further comments or questions on Rockport? Mr. Midas, I take it you'll speak up when you have a question, right?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I'm good now.
I have a similar concern to Mr. Binder, only coming from the south, or rather coming off of Rockport, turning right to going southbound. There seems to be just the same kind of curve that encourages a fast move by a car. And yet I see the west crosswalk that go north-south, like there's only stripes. The west side of that path is the right width, but the right side is way too wide. Why wouldn't this intersection call for closer in 90-degree turns onto and off of Rockport Road?
Intersection realignment.
Intersection realignment.
Well, slightly, yeah.
What does that mean?
You're not, Rockport's side could be moved north slightly, and maybe I noticed the turning radius is larger on the west than the east side.
I guess I don't know how you're answering my question.
Oh, maybe I'm not.
So, if you wanna make it 90 degrees, then if you're coming southbound or you're coming northbound on Rockport Road, you'd have to go veer to the west and then come back to the
Okay, say that again. If I'm coming northbound on Rockport.
Rockport to get it to be 90 degrees without taking out the gas pumps or gas tanks, whatever's in that, must be in that little island up there.
Okay.
So if you're coming northbound on Rockport, you'll have to go to the west, angle to the west, and then come back to the.
Okay, if Mr. Parker, if you would point that cursor on the southeast corner of the striped crosswalk to the west. Right there.
This part right here?
Yeah, why is that spot not made, why is that still for cars?
Yeah, because of the truck turning template. So I think for trucks, this is a very sharp turn for even a small truck to make this turn. So it has to be, I'm guessing this is like a 30-foot, maybe a 40-foot radius. So what we think is one option would be to put in a truck apron in this section where, you know, passenger vehicles have to turn around it, but trucks can track over it, similar to what we've shown before and what we're about to show on the next one. So that's something we could definitely look into.
Yeah, I for one would like you to do that. I get the problem of a truck turning, and I take it that's the same issue with the north side of that crosswalk as well. It's a truck issue?
Yeah.
So you say you can put aprons in that might, you know, deter the faster car driver.
Right, while still allowing the truck to make the turn.
Is this like the eastbound on 3rd Street turning onto Patterson? There's an apron there?
Correct.
It's just like that? Okay. Yes, I would be interested in seeing that integrated into the design. Mr. Binder?
What about moving the stop lines back on, especially on Rockport, and then shifting the multi-use paths crosswalk a little bit further west so that the distance is a lot shorter and it's not so far out you know, towards the edge of the, you know, into the intersection.
Good
Do
question.
you understand what I'm saying? Because if you look at how, you know, large radius those curves are, I mean, I don't think normally you'd want a multi-use path that close to the corner in the first place. You'd want it shifted a little bit, you know, away from the intersection so that the overall length of the crosswalk is shorter crossing distance. Do you understand what I mean, guys?
I see that makes a shorter crossing distance, but it feels like you also become less visible to the cars on Rogers as you move the crossing further away from it.
So that's something we're about to see on the country club concept, and what exists now is the crosswalks are a little bit far set back, and there are pros and cons to it. There are pros like you're saying, but there are also cons like Mark's saying where you are a little bit less visible. So that's something we can talk about more.
Yeah, I mean, one way you solve that is with signal timing, right? Is you separate out the phases, you know, so
Right.
there's no right turn on red and, you know, crossing signal for the multi-use path and so forth.
Further questions? I was gonna ask, is our new friend, the compact roundabout, feasible here?
No, we looked into that, and there's less right away here than at Gorley Pike, so it doesn't quite fit. We tested that at the design workshop.
That's too bad.
And it's also very hard when you have a skewed leg coming into a roundabout like that, because you need to create the space for the turning maneuvers, and now you're creating another obstruction for a truck to have to circulate around, and it's very challenging.
Okay.
So we did try it many times, and it did not, without, you know, acquiring significant right away, did not fit.
Okay. Any other questions? Let's move south to the next intersection.
So the last concept I have to show you today is at Country Club Drive. And like some of these other ones that we talked about, we also tried test fitting a compact roundabout here. But because Country Club, similar to Patterson, is, my understanding, is a truck route, or we have to design it for large trucks to move through there, we need to have a larger circle for the roundabout, and we weren't able to fit that. So we did try, and we tweaked it, went back and forth a number of times in review, and it just took up too much space and had too much additional right-of-way acquisition was required for it to really be a feasible concept. So the other concept that we came up with is to add truck aprons at all the corners and really make this intersection a lot more compact. Like Hank mentioned, I think already exists. I can't remember where you said they're in Patterson. I think I thought heard you say. So like already exists in the city, and like we could look at for Rockport. The idea being that, you know, trucks can still make these right turns, but passenger vehicles would be slowed down significantly with those truck aprons, because you need to track around them. So that's the overall concept here, is just make it a more compact and slower intersection, and make it more comfortable across as a person walking or biking.
Questions on Country Club from commissioners?
Could you remind me once again, what is the downside of using more like hidden inwards? What is the word for this?
The
We discussed just now,
crosswalks?
there is a downside, yeah, for the crosswalks, yes. The previous
So
example
there's
was they're more visible, and now it's like, yeah.
Yeah, so this just came up last week. There's some research that shows for right turning vehicles, there's a sweet spot of having about 16 feet or less from the curb return to the crosswalk, for motor vehicle drivers to not already be speeding up. So if you are within that window of 16 feet or less, then drivers are still making their turn and they're not yet speeding up. And if you're a little further back, then now they're accelerating through the crosswalk, which you really don't want. And so I think that's kind of what, I don't know who mentioned it, but when you start to set back the crosswalks too far, that right turning speed can just get higher, and we want as low a speed as possible at the crosswalk. So when they're closer to the intersection, then that's the slowest, with a small curve radius, the slowest speed that we can achieve.
Did it answer your question?
Yep, thanks.
So one car length roughly?
Yeah, we usually use 20 as a rule of thumb for car length, but yeah, 16, it depends on what type of car you're talking about.
What kind of boat are you driving? All right. Further questions on Country Club? All right, well, if that concludes all the intersections, how do we sum up in general? What's the next thing you want us to consider?
Do you mean for the study or with these concepts? I'm sorry.
Like, trying to wrap it up here, so.
Oh, I think I have everything I need for this evening.
Okay.
I've been taking notes, and we'll go through this recording again to look over the comments, but I think we have what we need to take the commission's thoughts into consideration, and then we'll also combine that with the overall public and stakeholder feedback to revise these designs and get back to you.
Can I get just a general sense from commissioners of their thoughts on this, Mr. Binder?
Actually, I just had a question rather than a comment.
Okay.
Which is, are there going to be any additional concepts for any additional intersections or cross-sections of the corridor between now and then when we see the, in other words, at the actual plan commission meeting where we are reviewing are we gonna see a roll plot of the entire corridor with every intersection designed, or yeah?
Not with every intersection designed. So earlier this summer, you all saw some typical cross sections. That's what you'll see to fill in those gaps of the major intersections. So Mr. Stossberg asked me about the Rogers and 7th intersection earlier. While that intersection is not going to be designed like what we had this evening, those linear aspects will be included in those typical cross sections, and all of these concepts are simply a menu of options that we can choose at various intersections. So we are not prescribed to do this at this intersection or that at that intersection. These are options that we could choose at various types of intersections along the corridor.
I guess the reason I bring that up is because two intersections I was hoping to see concepts for were 11th Street and also where the B line crosses Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't see either of those. And that's okay. I mean, this was already a lot, and that's awesome. And also, Drew, I just want to say thank you for doing all this. I know I've been very critical, but I think that's like the kind of critique you guys were hoping to receive. So hope you don't take it personally. But I would still love to see some discussion of 11th Street and also where the B line crosses Rogers.
If not in actual design, that is something we can mention in that final report.
When you say discussion of it, are you saying you want a redesign?
I mean, they're two pretty major intersections on the corridor, and I guess I don't understand why we wouldn't talk about those two. It just seems kind of arbitrary to me to talk about 15th Street, say, but not 11th Street, or 4th and Rogers, but not where the B line crosses Rogers. I don't know. To me, it just seems kind of like I don't understand the methodology used to determine what, which particular concepts we were reviewing tonight versus what's making it into the final report versus what's just a cross section and will just be designed at some point in the vague future.
Isn't there an apartment complex going in there where the B line crosses Rogers?
Yes.
We talked about before, so it'd be good to see that intersection.
Sure. But I think the broader point is, I guess, I don't understand what the priority was for these particular intersections versus some others that I think we have mentioned as ones that are important to consider.
Sure. So essentially, the scope of work included 10 intersections to be designed and included in the final report.
Okay.
We're at those 10. In terms of how those 10 were chosen, it's subjective.
Okay.
So that basically, because we only could afford 10, is that it?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. That's the answer I was looking. I mean, if that's the answer, that's the answer. So.
That's kind of disturbing, to be frank. Because I have to agree with Mr. Binder that those are two important intersections that it just seemed remiss to not also study them. I mean, I appreciated the 15th Street change, but yikes. Is there something we can do to get those two thrown in at this point?
So, I mean, that is something that Ryan and I can talk about after this meeting, but my question would be, where is the line on what intersections we have a design for in the report and which ones we don't? Because there are comments we've gotten from the public about almost every single intersection along the corridor, and at that point you are designing a full corridor, which is it simply costs a lot more than what we're doing. And when there are only so many options of improvements that we could choose for these intersections.
I mean, I don't know about other commissioners, but I feel sort of an obligation to be able to explain what we did, or how we advised you, you know, and that we're gonna be people who may find ourselves having to defend the choices that we talked about in these meetings, so.
I imagine you were incorporating metrics, like crashes at intersections or volumes.
Mm-hmm.
That's defensible.
Well, if we have the data, I mean, if you can provide us that data so that we can, I mean, will that be in the final report, like how you
It can be.
chose? What's that?
It can be.
Yeah, good. I think it's necessary, like at the very least, we should be able to explain why you made the choices you made.
Sure.
And then I guess just a quick follow on that, just to clarify, the 10 intersections that we saw tonight, concepts for, were those 10 selected by staff or were they selected by tool?
It was a combined discussion, but at the end of the day, it was staff.
Okay.
Further final questions?
Clarification, I
Mrs.
think,
Rutger.
as a follow-up, so if we compare 15s and 7s, like, how would we choose, like, how would we prioritize them? Like, why did we choose the 15th Street compared to 7th Street, which we discussed just now?
Sure. Between those two specifically?
For example, yeah, if we
Sure.
compare.
So we tried to choose intersections along the entirety of the corridor. And so because we were already focusing on 6 and Rogers in the near West Side area, we also wanted to show something for the Maple Heights Neighborhood Association as well. So up in that area between 11th and 17th.
So it's more of like coverage. And
A little bit,
that's
yes.
like-
That's part of it too.
Makes sense?
One more related question, and then I promise I'll stop. When this actually gets to high resolution engineering design, you know, contractor ready, construction ready designs, is the idea that ultimately those other intersections will have been designed and then the entire corridor would be built in a single, more or less a single phase? Or would this be broken out into a lot of different little separate phases and kind of rebuilt piecemeal?
Very likely it's the latter.
Okay.
Simply because of how much we're looking at. Again, if there is a giant federal grant that we can get, we're going to try to get it.
Sure.
But a lot of these intersections and linear parts of the project, because we're not looking at something like a larger road diet, for example, because this is already a 2-lane street, we can easily do this piecemeal intersection by intersection.
I mean, kind of, right? Because I think what could happen, I guess, is you know, we could wind up with segments of Rogers that have a new side path, and then there's a segment that doesn't have a side path yet, and then another segment that has a side path, and so forth. And it sounds like that may just be how it is, but I think we should just all understand that's maybe what our expectation should be, is that it's not like once the construction of this gets going, at some point there will be a full side path along all of Rogers. That's gonna take some time in multiple design and construction phases.
Mr.
Okay.
Kopic?
Could you let us know what other intersections, like were mentioned before, that are part of some other project that may have some design already in place, like 11th Street or something like that, so, or 2nd Street or Kirkwood or?
Sure. I probably don't have the full list off the top of my head, but I can absolutely get it to you by our next meeting.
Well, or just something, you know, that when we have the report, it'd be good to know if these other intersections are having some changes made to them. I mean, 11th Street seems pretty important.
100%.
Okay, is there any public comment? Would you come to the microphone, please state your name?
You have to vote to allow it. Oh, it's specifically not
I was just wondering, okay. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion to allow public
A
comment?
motion to allow public
Second.
comment.
We have a motion and second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. You may speak, you'll have 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm Jill Bird, I live in Prospect Hill, so this is my corridor, I'm on it, foot, bike, car, all the time. I did fill out a very detailed response to your survey online, I hope that that is read and attention is paid. Can you flip through them, or should I just try to talk about each? Okay, well, the first one, there's some areas where there's green space to narrow the street, and at least one area there is a right turn area. Anytime a car
Which
can,
intersection are we talking about?
the very first one.
Gorley Pike.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anytime a car can make a left turn, I think there should be more than one lane. The new work that was done on Rogers, when I turn left to go home, cars are backing up behind me because you built a great big green space, and I now have one lane. So I would avoid that anytime possible. The Madison one, I agree with Steve's concern about westbound traffic and how you have to make that little jog to get back on the multi-use path. It's gonna be particularly awkward for a bicycle that's going to be on the right side of a car and then wanting to turn left in front of them.
Madison is north-south, which street were you?
15th.
Madison and 15.
Thank you.
That's gonna be particularly awkward. And can someone remind me, is 6th and Rogers stop signs? Are
Yes.
there- Okay.
No, it's not. 7th is.
Okay,
yeah.
because a lot of cars seem to cross 6th, and I think once again, with the lane narrowing, it's going to be more difficult because cars turning left are going to back traffic up, and it's gonna be harder for cars to cross 6th Street. 3rd and Rogers. Assuming that you are going to do the bike lane under the bridge, please don't cheap out on the concrete barrier. Riding a bike under that bridge with that big concrete wall on one side of you and cars on the other side is frightening. I take the rickety sidewalks just to avoid that. There would be some safety gained with the concrete barrier, and I hope you don't, cheap out and decide to eliminate that. All right, where am I? The Dodds intersection, when I looked online, it looked like it did not, the multi-use path did not extend past Shalom Center to the north. And I urge you to do that because there's a lot of pedestrians, people are hanging out, they're eating their pizza out there, and thank you. When you're on a bike, having the extra width of a multi-lane versus a sidewalk would be very helpful, and it would be a huge safety factor.
That's your time.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank
Any
you.
further public comment? Online, please use the raise hand function in Zoom. Last call for online comment. All right, do we know, let's come back to the commission as a whole. Do we know when you plan to have the final meeting with us approximately? Mr. Duncan?
Before the end of the calendar year, certainly. I would say between 6 to 8 weeks from now.
Okay, so we're looking at a mid-October. I mean, we generally meet on the 4th Thursday, so or Monday rather. So a second Monday would be optimal. Or maybe it would be the second Monday in November. Okay. All right. Well, in fact, our November meeting is actually in December because of Thanksgiving. Okay. So we should expect one more of these, perhaps early November. Okay. Any last words? Our business is concluded. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.